Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and watched the stars. The Harbinger moved quietly through space, far from Earth and the busy trade routes. Jake had been out here for 3 months now, doing what everyone thought was simple. Research work. "Captain, we have a ship coming toward us," said Commander Ryan Cole. Ryan was a big man with smart eyes who used to be a soldier before he joined Jake's crew. "It looks like a Zephyrian patrol ship." Jake nodded. He had been expecting this. The Zephyrians were one of the oldest and strongest groups in the galaxy. Their ships were made of some kind of crystal that could shoot powerful energy beams. Most other races were afraid of them. "Let them come," Jake said quietly. "Remember what we talked about? We are just scientists doing research." Dr. Lisa Park looked up from her workstation. She was a thin woman with short black hair who always seemed to be thinking about something. "All the equipment is ready, Captain. They will only see what we want them to see." The Zephyrian ship was huge compared to the Harbinger. It was long and sharp, made of blue crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. Jake could see weapon ports along its sides. One blast from those weapons could destroy his ship completely. "Human vessel," came a cold voice over the radio. "This is Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Empire. Stop your ship and prepare for inspection." Jake opened a channel back to them. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth ship Harbinger. We are conducting scientific research in this area. We will comply with your inspection." Ryan looked at Jake. "With concern, sir. Should we call for help?" Jake shook his head. "No need. Let them come aboard." Soon, 3 Zephyrian soldiers floated over to the Harbinger in small ships. They were tall beings with pale blue skin and large black eyes. Their bodies seemed to be partly made of the same crystal as their ships. They wore no weapons that Jake could see, but he knew they could kill him with their bare hands. The lead Zephyrian was taller than the others. His crystal parts glowed brighter, which meant he was important. "I am Sub-Commander Krell. We will search your ship now," of course Jake said with a smile. "We have nothing to hide. Dr. Park will show you our research equipment." Lisa led the aliens through the ship. She showed them machines that studied rocks and gases from space. She showed them computers that mapped star systems. She showed them samples of space dust and small rocks they had collected. "What is the purpose of this research?" Krell asked. His voice sounded like breaking glass. "We are trying to understand how different star systems formed," Lisa explained. "My people are new to space travel. We want to learn from the older races." "Like yours?" Krell seemed pleased by this answer. The Zephyrians liked it when other races said they were superior. "Your species is young and weak," he said. "But you are smart enough to know your place. This is good." The aliens spent 2 hours searching the ship. They found exactly what Lisa had shown them: research equipment and scientific data. They did not find the real equipment hidden behind fake walls. They did not find the quantum sensors that could see through their crystal armor. They did not find the communication system that could send messages across the galaxy in seconds. Before they left, Krell gave Jake a warning. "This area of space belongs to the Zephyrian Empire now. Your research is permitted, but do not interfere with our ships or our business. Weak races that get in our way tend to disappear." "We understand completely," Jake said. "We are just scientists. We want no trouble with the mighty Zephyrian Empire." After the aliens left, Ryan let out a long breath. "I hate pretending to be weak in front of those crystal heads." "It won't be for much longer," Jake said quietly. He walked over to Lisa's station. "Did you get everything?" Lisa smiled for the first time in hours. "Everything. Their ship's energy, patterns, weapon frequencies, shield harmonics, even the crystal composition of their armor. The scanners worked perfectly." Jake nodded. The Harbinger was not really a research ship. It was a spy ship, one of dozens that Earth had sent out into the galaxy. For 30 years, humans had been members of the Galactic Council. For 30 years, they had acted like a young, weak race that needed protection from the older empires. But humans had not been idle during those 30 years. They had been watching and learning. Every trade mission carried hidden sensors. Every diplomatic meeting was recorded and studied. Every piece of alien technology was secretly copied and improved. The Zephyrians thought humans were harmless. So did the Corvin hegemony, with their insect-like ships and mining fleets. So did the ethereal dominion, with their mind powers and psychic weapons. All the great empires of the galaxy saw humans as useful, but weak. They were wrong. Jake walked to his private quarters and sent a coded message to Earth. The message was short but important. Zephyrian patrol ship completely scanned. All data collected, no suspicion detected. The reply came back in minutes from Admiral Kate Sanders, the head of Earth's secret military program. Excellent work, Jake. Phase 1 is almost complete. Prepare for Phase 2 orders. Jake looked out the window. Of his quarters at the stars, out there dozens of other human ships were doing the same work he was doing. They were mapping every alien fleet, studying every weapon, learning every weakness. The galaxy's empires had grown fat and lazy after thousands of years of easy victories over weaker races, but humans were different. Humans learned fast. Humans adapted. And humans never forgot an insult. Dr. Lisa Park knocked on his door. Captain, we should move to the next system. Our research schedule says we need to study the gas giant there. Jake smiled. Their research schedule was really a plan to spy on a Corvin mining operation. Set course, Dr. Park. We have a lot more learning to do. As the Harbinger moved away toward the next star system, Jake thought about the future. The galaxy's empires thought they knew humans. They thought humans were a young race that would always follow the rules set by their betters. Soon they would learn how wrong they were. Phase 2 was coming, and when it arrived, the galaxy would never be the same again. The quiet species had been listening and learning for 30 years. When they finally decided to speak, they would speak in a language the galaxy would never forget. They would speak in steel. Governor Ben Carter stood in his office looking at the red warning lights flashing across his desk. Outside his window, he could see the farms and small cities of New Montana Colony spread across the green hills. It was a peaceful world, home. 2 million humans who had come here to start new lives. Now that peace was about to end. Sir, we have 20 Corvin ships coming toward us, said his military advisor, Colonel Jane Foster. They'll be here in 6 hours. Ben felt sick. The Corvins were insect-like aliens who lived for war and conquest. Their ships looked like giant metal bugs with weapons all over them. They had taken over 12 star systems in the past 10 years, and no one had been able to stop them. How many defense ships do we have? Ben asked, though he already knew the answer. 3 patrol boats. And 1 old cruiser, Jane replied. Sir, we can't fight them. We need to evacuate as many people as we can. Ben shook his head. There's no time. It takes days to move 2 million people, and we only have hours. He sat down heavily in his chair. Send a message to Earth. Tell them what's happening? Jane's face was grim. Sir, even if Earth sends help right now, it will take weeks for them to get here. The Corvins will be done with us long before then. Keen knew she was right. New Montana was far from Earth, out on the edge of human space. The colony had been built here because the land was good for farming, not because it could be defended easily. He opened a communication channel to Earth Command. This is Governor Carter of New Montana Colony. We are under attack by Corvon forces, 20 ships approaching. We cannot defend ourselves. Request immediate assistance. The reply came back quickly from Admiral Kate Sanders. Her voice was calm, which surprised Ben. Governor Carter, help is already on the way. Keep your people calm and stay ready. Admiral, with respect, there's no way your ships can get here in time, Ben said. Trust me, Governor. Help is closer than you think. Ben didn't understand what she meant, but he had no choice but to trust her. He spent the next few hours helping people get to the underground shelters that had been built in case of emergencies. Most of the colonists had never seen war before. They were scared but trying to be brave. When the Corvin ships arrived, they came out of hyperspace like angry metal wasps. Ben watched them on his screen from the command bunker deep underground. The ships were black and ugly, covered with spikes and weapon ports. They moved in formation like a swarm of deadly insects. The lead Corvin ship sent a message to the colony. The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and clicking, like someone stepping on dry leaves. Human colony, this is War Commander. Thrak of the Corvin hegemony. Your world now belongs to us. Surrender immediately, and you will be allowed to live as our slaves. Resist, and you will all die. Ben was about to reply when something incredible happened. The space around New Montana began to shimmer and bend, like heat waves rising from hot ground. Then suddenly, ships appeared out of nowhere, not just a few. Ships. Dozens of them. Big ships, bigger than anything Ben had ever seen before. They had been hiding somehow, invisible to all sensors, waiting for the Corvins to arrive. "This is Admiral Pete Johnson of the Earth Defense Fleet," came a strong voice over the radio. "Corvin ships, you have entered human space without permission and threatened human lives. You have one chance to leave. This is not a negotiation." Ben stared at his screen in amazement. The human fleet was huge. Ships were sleek and powerful, covered with weapons that looked more advanced than anything he had seen before. They had surrounded the Corvin force completely. War Commander Thrak's voice came back, full of anger and surprise. "Humans? How did you hide so many ships?" "No matter. We outnumber you and our weapons are superior." "Prepare to die," Admiral Ben said over a private channel. "There are 20 Corvin ships, and they're heavily armed. Are you sure you can handle them?" Admiral Johnson's voice was calm and confident. "Governor, we've been planning this fight for a long time. Just watch." The battle began when the Corvins fired first. Their weapons were indeed powerful. Energy blasts that could melt through thick armor and missiles that could destroy city blocks. Ben watched in fear as the alien weapons struck the human ships. But something amazing happened. The human ships didn't explode or burn. Instead, their shields seemed to learn from each attack. The first energy blast did some damage. The second blast did less. By the third blast, the human shields were completely stopping the Corvin weapons. "How is this possible?" Ben whispered. Colonel Foster was watching the battle with wide eyes. "Sir, I think our ships are adapting to their weapons in real time. I've never seen anything like it." The human ships began to fight back. Their weapons were different from anything Ben had seen before. Instead of simple energy beams or missiles, they fired something that looked like living metal. These projectiles seemed to change shape as they flew, turning into whatever form would do the most damage to their target. The first Corvin ship to get hit simply came apart. Its thick armor, which had protected it in hundreds of battles, was cut through like paper. The ship broke into pieces and exploded. "Impossible," War Commander Thrak screamed over the radio. "Our armor cannot be penetrated." "What weapons are these?" Admiral Johnson's reply was cold. "These are human weapons, built from studying your technology and making it better. Every battle you've fought, every ship you've destroyed, every weapon you've used, we've been watching and learning." The battle was not really a battle at all. It was a demonstration. One by one, the Corvin ships were destroyed or disabled. Their weapons, which had conquered 12 star systems, were useless against human shields. Their armor, which had never been broken, was torn apart by human weapons. Some Corvin ships tried to run away, but the human fleet was faster. Some tried to ram the human ships in desperate attacks, but human point defense systems destroyed them. Before they could get close, in 4 hours, it was over. 18 Corvin ships were destroyed. 2 were captured with their crews alive. Not a single human ship was even badly damaged. Ben couldn't believe what he had seen. "Admiral Johnson, how long have you been preparing for this?" 30 years. "Governor, ever since we joined the Galactic Council, we've been getting ready for the day when someone would try to take what's ours." "But how did you know they would attack New Montana?" Admiral Johnson was quiet for a moment. "Didn't know exactly where they would attack, so we prepared everywhere. There are human fleets hidden near every colony, every trade route, every important system. We've been ready for this fight for decades." Ben walked outside after the all-clear was given. Above him, he could see the human ships moving through space, cleaning up the wreckage of the Corvin fleet. The colonists were coming out of their shelters, looking up at the sky in wonder. Governor Admiral Johnson's voice came through Ben's personal communicator. You should know that this was just the beginning. Word of this battle will spread through the galaxy quickly. Other empires will hear about it. What'll happen then? Ben asked. They'll either learn to respect us, or they'll try to destroy us before we become too strong. Either way, the galaxy is about to change forever. That night, Ben sat in his office writing his report to Earth. Through his window, he could see the lights of the human fleet patrolling around New Montana. The colonists were safe now, but Ben knew that safety had come at a price. For 30 years, humans had pretended to be weak. They had smiled and bowed to the great empires, acting like grateful children who needed protection. But all that time, they had been building and planning and preparing. The Corvins had thought they were attacking a helpless human colony. Instead, they had walked into a trap that had been 30 years in the making. The galaxy's empires were about to learn a hard lesson. The quiet species was quiet no more. Ambassador Claire Watson sat in her office on Nexus Prime, a neutral world where all the galaxy's empires came to make deals and settle disputes. Through her window, she could see ships from dozens of different races docked at the massive space station that orbited the planet for 3 days now. The station had been buzzing with talk about the battle at New Montana. Representatives from every major empire were meeting in closed sessions, trying to figure out what the human victory meant. Claire knew exactly what it meant. The plan her people had worked on for 30 years was finally beginning. Ambassador. Her aide, Lieutenant Mark Cooper, said as he entered her office. The ethereal delegation has requested a private meeting with you. They say it's urgent. Claire nodded. She had been expecting this. The ethereals were the most dangerous of the galaxy's empires. Not because of their ships or weapons, but because of their ability to attack minds directly. They could drive people insane with a thought or take control of their enemies' brains. Them and Mark. And remember what we practiced. Mark touched the small device hidden behind his ear and nodded. All humans now carried these devices, though the aliens didn't know about them yet. 3 ethereals floated into the room. They didn't walk like other beings. Instead, they moved through the air like ghosts, their pale bodies surrounded by a faint glow. Their large eyes seemed to look right through Claire as if they could see her thoughts. The lead ethereal spoke without moving its mouth. Out. Its voice appeared directly in Claire's mind, cold and commanding. Human ambassador, your species has made a grave mistake. The destruction of the Corvin fleet was an act of war against the natural order of the galaxy. Claire smiled politely. I'm sorry, but I don't understand. The Corvons attacked one of our colonies without warning. We simply defended ourselves. Did more than defend. You destroyed them completely. This shows dangerous ambition. The ethereal's mental voice grew harder. Your species must be taught humility before you threaten the stability of civilized space. Claire felt the alien's mind pressing against hers, trying to push fear and submission into her thoughts. A year ago, this attack would have worked. She would have been helpless against the ethereal's psychic power, but Dr. Helen Ross and her team had spent years studying captured ethereal prisoners. They had learned how the alien's mind powers worked, and more importantly, how to stop them. I'm afraid your tricks won't work on me, Claire said calmly. The ethereal's large eyes widened in surprise. Impossible. No mind can resist our power. Human minds can. We've been practicing. Claire activated the device behind her ear. Suddenly, the psychic attack that had been trying to enter her mind was reflected back at the ethereals. But it was more than just reflected, it was amplified and focused by human technology. The 3 aliens screamed without making a sound. Their bodies convulsed as their own psychic energy was turned against them. They crashed to the floor, their glow fading as they lost consciousness. Mark came running into the room. Ambassador, are you all right? I'm fine. But I think our guests need medical attention. Claire looked down at the unconscious ethereals with satisfaction. Make sure they get the best care. We want them to remember this experience clearly. Word of the incident spread through the station within hours. The galaxy's most feared psychic warriors had been defeated by a single human ambassador. Suddenly, the victory at New Montana didn't seem like luck anymore. Meanwhile, in the distant Zephyrian Empire, Emperor Vash was meeting with his war council. Gosh. The crystal being sat on his throne of living light, his body glowing with anger. Humans have humiliated the Corvons, and now the ethereals, he said, his voice like breaking glass. If we do not act soon, other races will begin to think we are weak. My lord, said General Kex, perhaps we should study these humans more carefully before we act. Their victory was too complete to be mere luck. Emperor Vash's glow grew brighter. With rage, study them. They are a young race that has been in space for barely 30 years. We have ruled this galaxy for 10,000 years. But my lord, their weapons seem to adapt to Corvan technology very quickly. Silence. The Emperor's mental voice crashed through the chamber like thunder. Prepare the Grand Fleet. We will crush Earth itself and show the galaxy what happens. 2 races that forget their place? How many ships, my lord? All of them. Every crystal ship in the Empire. The humans will face the largest fleet in galactic history. 300 Zephyrian ships began moving toward human space. It was, indeed, the largest battle fleet ever assembled, enough firepower to destroy entire star systems. The crystal ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons charged and ready. But as they entered the outer edge of human territory, something strange happened. Ships began appearing around them. Not just human ships, but human ships hiding in places that should have been empty space. Captain Alex Turner stood on the bridge of the human command ship Freedom's Call, watching the Zephyrian fleet on his screens. He had been waiting for this moment for months. All ships, this is Turner, begin herding maneuver. Drive them toward Jupiter, just like we practiced.
Oh.
The human ships didn't attack the Zephyrian fleet directly. Instead, they appeared in specific locations, forcing the crystal ships to change course to avoid them. It looked like the humans were retreating, falling back toward Earth's solar system. Emperor Vash was pleased. See how they run? The humans know they cannot face us in open battle. We will follow them to their homeworld and finish this quickly. But Admiral Kex was worried. My lord, this seems too easy. Why would they retreat to their most important system? That gives us the chance to destroy their capital world. Because they are cowards and fools, the Emperor replied. Pursue them. The Zephyrian fleet chased the humans deeper into the solar system. They passed Mars, then the asteroid belt, heading straight for Earth. But as they approached Jupiter, the retreat suddenly stopped. Human ships appeared everywhere. They came out of hiding behind Jupiter's moons, from inside the asteroid belt, from the shadow of the gas giant itself. The Zephyrians found themselves surrounded by a fleet twice the size of their own. Impossible, Emperor Vash screamed. Did they hide so many ships? Captain Turner's voice came over the radio, calm and confident. Emperor Vash, welcome to the Sol System. You've just entered the most heavily defended star system in the galaxy. Human fool. Your primitive weapons cannot penetrate our crystal armor. Attack. The Zephyrian ships opened fire with their most powerful weapons. Energy beams that could melt asteroids struck the human fleet. But something impossible happened. The human shields held. More than held, they seemed to absorb the energy and grow stronger. My lord, Admiral Kex said in horror, their shields are using our own weapon technology. Captain Turner smiled as he watched the Zephyrian weapons fail against human defenses. His ships were protected by improved versions of the very shields the Crystal Empire had developed over thousands of years. Your turn, Turner said quietly. The human fleet opened fire. Their weapons were not energy beams or missiles, but something new. Focused gravity pulses that could crush crystal structures at the molecular level. The Zephyrian ships, which had seemed invincible for centuries, began to crack and shatter. Emperor Vash watched in terror as his grand fleet was destroyed around him. This cannot be happening. We are the masters of this galaxy. Not anymore, Turner replied. You had your chance to leave us alone. Now you'll learn what happens when you threaten humanity. The battle was over in 6 hours. 300 crystal ships became debris floating around Jupiter. Only a handful of Zephyrian vessels escaped to carry word back to their empire. Dr. Helen Ross stood in her laboratory on Earth, watching the battle reports come in. Around her, captured alien technology. from dozens of races was being studied and improved by human scientists. "We've done it," she said to her assistant. "3 empires broken in as many months. The Corvins, the Ethereals, and now the Zephyrians. What happens next, Doctor?" Helen looked at the star charts on her wall, marking the locations of every remaining empire in the galaxy. "Now, the real work begins. The other empires will try to unite against us. They'll throw everything they have at Earth, hoping to stop us before we become too strong. Can they succeed?" Helen smiled. "No, they're 30 years too late for that. We're already too strong. They just don't know it yet." Across the galaxy, emergency meetings were being held. The remaining empires, the Saurian Republic, the Mechanical, Consensus, and dozens of smaller powers were coming together in fear. The quiet species had spoken 3 times now. Each time an ancient empire had fallen, the galaxy was beginning to understand that everything had changed. Humanity was no longer the weak young race that needed protection. They had become something far more dangerous, a species that learned from every victory and grew stronger with each battle. The age of the great empires was ending. The age of humanity had begun. General Nina Brooks stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, looking at a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked the locations of enemy fleets. Blue dots showed human positions. Yellow areas showed neutral space that might become battlefields. "Status report," she said to her staff. Colonel Dave Martinez stepped forward. "Ma'am, intelligence confirms that 12 remaining empires have formed the Galactic Preservation Alliance. They're calling it a coalition to stop human expansion." "Oh. Many ships total?" "Over 2,000 spread across 15 different fleets. The Saurians are leading the alliance. They've convinced the others that we're a threat to all galactic civilization." Nina nodded. The Saurians were smart, which made them dangerous. Unlike the Corvins or Zephyrians, they understood that humans were not the weak species they had pretended to be for 30 years. What's their strategy? Multiple strikes at our key systems. They plan to hit our colonies, our shipyards, and our supply lines all at the same time. They think if they can destroy our industrial base, we'll collapse. Nina smiled grimly. "They still don't understand. Show them the real map." The display changed. Suddenly, the galaxy was covered with thousands of blue dots. Human positions were everywhere: hidden bases, secret shipyards, cloaked fleets waiting. In empty space. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Chen. "We have forces positioned near every enemy system." "For 30 years, we've been preparing for this moment," Nina said. "While they thought we were weak, we were building. While they ignored us, we were planning. Now they want to destroy our industry, we'll destroy theirs first." Nina activated the communication system that linked her to human fleets across the galaxy. "All forces, this is General Brooks. Operation Steel Doctrine is now active. Begin elimination of enemy military capacity. Show no mercy." Captain Greg Stone commanded the stealth fleet Ghost Squadron. His 12 ships had been hiding in the shadow of a dead planet for 2 weeks, watching the Saurian shipyards that orbited the system's main star. "Captain," his weapons officer said, "we're receiving the go signal from Earth Command." Greg looked at the massive construction facilities. Ahead of them, the Saurians built their ships here, huge vessels designed to carry thousands of troops across the galaxy. If this shipyard was destroyed, the Reptilian Empire would lose half its shipbuilding capacity. All ships, decloak and attack. A target. The construction facilities first, then the completed ships. The Ghost Squadron appeared out of nowhere, like 12 angels of death. A quantum torpedo struck before the Saurians even knew they were under attack. The first shipyard exploded in a ball of fire that could be seen from 3 planets away. "Saurian Command, 2 unknown attackers," came a panicked voice over the radio. "You are in violation of galactic law. Identify yourselves." "This is Captain Stone of the Earth Defense Force," Greg replied calmly. "Your government has declared war on humanity. Consider this our response." The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, the Saurian Republic had lost its main shipyard, 40 completed, warships, and the ability to build new ones. The Ghost Squadron, vanished back into stealth mode and headed for their next target. Similar attacks were happening across the galaxy. Human stealth fleets struck at military bases, weapons factories, and fleet anchorages. The aliens had expected a defensive war where they would attack human worlds. Instead, they found themselves under attack in their own systems. On the mechanical world of Prime Node, artificial intelligences of the mechanical consensus gathered in emergency session. They were computer minds that had uploaded themselves into robot bodies thousands of years ago. Analysis complete, announced Central Processing Unit. Alpha 1. Human attacks show coordination impossible without quantum communication networks spanning entire galaxy. Probability of successful defense decreasing with each enemy strike. Added military node. Beta 7. Recommendation: immediate surrender before total system failure. Negative, replied Central Command Omeganine. Pride protocols prevent surrender to organic species. Continue resistance. But even as they spoke, human cyber warfare specialists, led by Dr. Amy Chen, were breaking into their most secure networks. The machines had thought their computer systems were impossible for organic minds to understand. They were wrong. Human programmers had spent years studying captured mechanical technology. They had learned how the artificial minds worked, and more importantly, how to shut them down. Initiate virus upload, Dr. Chen said from her command center on Earth. Target their military control systems first. How cross-mechanical space warships suddenly stopped responding to commands. Defense platforms powered down. Communication networks crashed. The artificial intelligences found their own technology turned against them by humans who understood it better than they did in the ethereal dominion. The psychic masters were discovering that their mind powers were useless against humans. Every attack they tried was reflected back by improved versions of their own technology. Their most powerful telepaths were being driven insane by their own reflected thoughts. Supreme Mind Zara floated in her crystal chamber, her form wavering as her concentration was broken by fear. How is this possible? These humans were nothing 30 years ago. They were never nothing, replied her aide, Mindsinger Vel. They were watching and learning. Every time we demonstrated our power, they studied it. Every weakness we showed, they remembered. On the Corvin homeworld, the few survivors of the New Montana battle were being questioned by their leaders. Warmaster Grix clicked his mandibles in anger as he listened to their reports. You say their shields adapted to our weapons during the battle? Yes, Warmaster. Each shot we fired became less effective than the last. By the end, our most powerful cannons could not even scratch their holes in their weapons, unlike anything we have seen. They seemed to change based on what they were shooting at. Our thick armor was useless. Warmaster Grix turned to his science advisor. How is such technology possible? We do not know, Warmaster. But we have learned something disturbing from captured human equipment. These beings do not just copy our technology, they improve it. Their versions of our own weapons are better than the originals. The war was not going as the Galactic Preservation Alliance had planned. Instead of a quick victory over a young race, they were facing systematic destruction of everything they had built over thousands of years. President Carroll? Adams addressed the Earth government from the secure bunker where she had been moved for safety, but she wasn't really in danger. The enemy fleets were too busy trying to save themselves to attack Earth. My fellow humans, she said, for 30 years we have endured the contempt of the galaxy's empires. They saw us as weak because we chose to appear weak. They mistook our patience for cowardice and our restraint for inability. Today, they are learning the truth. We are not weak, are not cowardly. We are prepared. Every insult they gave us, we remembered. Every threat they made, we planned for. Every weapon they showed us, we studied and improved. General Brooks entered the president's bunker with the latest reports. Ma'am, enemy resistance is collapsing faster than we expected. The Saurian home fleet surrendered an hour ago. The mechanical consensus has gone completely offline. Even the smaller empires are sending surrender signals. How long until we control all major military assets in the galaxy? At this rate, 6 months, maybe less. Our stealth fleets are destroying their ability to make war faster than they can defend against us. Carol nodded. She felt no joy in the victory, only satisfaction that the plan had worked. What about civilian populations? Are we minimizing casualties? Yes, ma'am. Our orders are clear. Destroy military targets only. We're not conquerors, we're liberators. Across the galaxy, the ancient empires were learning a hard lesson. They had ruled through fear and superior technology for thousands of years. They had crushed younger races and taken whatever they wanted. But humans were different. Humans learned. Humans adapted. And humans never forgot. The empires had thought they were fighting a war. Instead, they had walked into an execution. Their military forces were being systematically eliminated by an enemy they had created through their own arrogance. The age of empire was ending. The age of human peace was about to begin. In her laboratory, Dr. Helen Ross watched the reports. Coming in from across the galaxy, every major military installation was either destroyed or under human control. Every fleet was either captured or space debris. It's almost over, she said to her assistant. 30 years of preparation, and it's ending in 6 months. What happens to the surviving populations, Doctor? Helen looked at the plans for galactic reconstruction that human planners had been working on for decades. They'll learn to live. In peace, under our protection, of course. The galaxy has been at war for too long. It's time for someone responsible to take charge. The quiet species had spoken their final word. It was a word written in steel and spoken in fire. Every empire in the galaxy had heard it clearly. The message was simple. Never again would humanity be underestimated. Never again would they be threatened. The galaxy now belonged to those wise enough to use their power properly. It belonged to humanity. 5 years had passed since the war that changed everything. Captain Jerry Blake stood on the bridge of the exploration ship New Frontier, looking at a star map that showed the galaxy in blue. Almost every system now flew under human protection. "Captain," said his first officer, Lieutenant Carol Davis, "we're approaching the Andreon system. The local population is ready for our arrival." Jerry nodded. The Andreans were a peaceful, bird-like race that had been enslaved by the Saurian Republic for 200 years. Now they were free, protected by human fleets, and allowed to govern themselves for the first time in centuries. Any problems in the system? No, sir. Crime is down 90% since we established the protection zone. Trade is up 300%. The Andreans say they've never been happier. Jerry smiled. This was happening all across the galaxy. Small races that had lived in fear for thousands of years were now free to grow and prosper. The great empires that had oppressed them were gone, their military power destroyed by human forces. "Take us into orbit, Carol. Let's see how our friends are doing." As the new frontier approached, the green and blue world below, Jerry could see the changes that human protection had brought. New cities were being built. Space elevators carried goods between the planet and orbital stations. Ships from dozens of different races moved peacefully through the system. The communication officer opened a channel to the planet. "Captain Blake, this is Prime Minister Keth of the Andrean Republic. Welcome back to our system." "Thank you, Prime." "Minister, how are things going?" "It's better than we ever dreamed possible. Our population has grown by 20% in 5 years. Our economy is stronger than it was even before the Saurians conquered us. And best of all, our children sleep safely at night." This was the new galaxy that humanity had created. Not through conquest or slavery, but through protection and fair trade. The ancient empires had ruled by force. Humans ruled by making life better for everyone on Earth. President Carol Adams was meeting with the Galactic Assembly in the Great Hall that had been built in Geneva. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in comfortable chairs, discussing trade agreements and scientific cooperation. "The motion to establish new shipping routes through the former Zephyrian territory passes unanimously," Carol announced. "These routes will be protected by human patrol fleets and will be open to all member races." He was no longer an emperor. His crystal ships were all destroyed, his military power gone. Now he was simply the representative of the Zephyrian homeworld. One voice among hundreds in the new galactic government, he had learned to live with the humiliation. His people were alive, their world was safe, and they were free to pursue their own interests as long as they followed galactic law. It was better than extinction, which is what they had expected after their defeat. Representative Vash, President Adams said, "Your people have requested permission to build a new space station. What is its purpose?" Vash stood slowly. Speaking to humans still made his crystal body dim with shame, but he had learned to accept his place in the new order. "The station will be for scientific research, Madam President. We wish to study crystal formations in space that might help with medical treatments." "Approved. You'll have a human advisor to help with the project and make sure all safety protocols are followed." This was how the galaxy worked now. The former empires were allowed to exist and even prosper, but always under human oversight. They could pursue their own interests, but they could never again threaten others. Admiral Lisa Harper stood on the command deck of the human flagship Sovereign, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. Her hair was gray now, aged by 5 years of constant vigilance, but her eyes were still sharp. "Status report, Commander Davis," she said to her aide. "All sectors report normal, Admiral. The Corvin mining operations are producing record amounts of rare metals. The ethereal research stations are making breakthroughs in medical technology. The mechanical worlds are manufacturing goods for peaceful trade. Any signs of military buildup?" "None, ma'am. Our monitoring systems would detect any attempt to build weapons or warships immediately." The former empires seemed to have accepted their new role in galactic society. Lisa nodded. This was exactly what human planners had hoped for. The galaxy's races were not destroyed or enslaved. They were simply prevented from making war. Their energy and creativity were now directed toward building rather than destroying. "What about exploration reports?" "Captain Blake's team has discovered 3 new habitable worlds in the Outer Rim. All are uninhabited and available for colonization. We estimate they could support about 50 million people each. Any interest from the member races? The Endrians want to establish colonies on 2 of them. They're offering to share the worlds with refugees from the former war zones." This was another change that human rule had brought. Instead of fighting over new worlds, the galaxy's races were learning to share them. There was room for everyone. In a peaceful galaxy, Dr. Sam Torres stood in his laboratory on the research station orbiting Earth's moon. Around him, scientists from 20 different races worked together on projects that would have been impossible under the old Empire system. "Dr. Torres," said his ethereal assistant, Dr. Mira, "the new medical scanner is ready for testing. It combines human technology with our psychic healing methods." Sam smiled. "Excellent. What's the projected effectiveness?" "It should be able to detect diseases at the cellular level and treat them without surgery. The combination of our mental abilities with your technological improvements makes it far more powerful than either method alone." This was the real victory of the human system. Instead of keeping alien technologies secret and using them only for war, humans encouraged cooperation and shared improvement. The result was scientific advancement that benefited everyone. "Any word from the mechanical research team?" "Making progress on the new computer systems. By combining their artificial intelligence with human creativity, they've designed systems that can solve problems we never thought possible." Sam nodded. Former enemies were now working together, their combined knowledge creating wonders that none of them could have achieved alone. On the Corvon homeworld, War Master Grix no longer held a military title. He was now called Industry Leader Grix, and he managed mining operations that supplied its materials for peaceful construction projects across the galaxy. He stood in his office, looking at production reports that would have amazed his ancestors. The Corvins were mining more resources than ever before, but instead of building weapons of war, they were building hospitals, schools, and homes for growing populations. Leader Grix said his human advisor, Colonel Jane Foster, the latest shipment to the Andrian colonies has been delivered successfully. They're very pleased with the quality of the construction materials. Grix clicked his mandibles, and what humans had learned was a sign of satisfaction. "Good. Our workers take pride in their craftsmanship. It is better to build than to destroy." This was a lesson that all the former empires had learned. War brought only destruction and suffering. Peace brought prosperity and growth. Under human protection, they were all richer and happier than they had ever been as conquerors. In the evening, President Adams stood on the balcony of her office, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, human ships patrolled the trade routes, keeping them safe for all travelers. Human research stations worked with alien scientists to solve the galaxy's problems. Human colonies welcomed refugees and offered new homes to anyone who wanted them. Madam President, said her secretary, the latest polls are in. Approval ratings for human leadership are at 98% across all member worlds. Carol wasn't surprised. When people were safe, prosperous, and free to live their lives without fear, they tended to be happy with their government. Any complaints? Just the usual ones from the former Empire leaders. They still think they should have more say in galactic policy. Carol shook her head. They had their chance to lead. They chose to rule through fear and oppression. Now they can learn what real leadership looks like. The old galaxy had been ruled by whoever had the biggest weapons and the strongest will to use them. Empires rose and fell based on their ability to conquer and destroy. It was a system that brought nothing but suffering to most of the galaxy's inhabitants. The new galaxy was different. It was ruled by those who understood that true strength came from protection, not conquest, from building up rather than tearing down, from cooperation rather than domination. Admiral Harper finished her daily reports and prepared to return to her quarters. Before she left the command deck, she stopped to look at the large display that showed the current status of every system in the galaxy. Green lights meant peace and prosperity. Yellow lights meant minor problems that were being resolved. Red lights meant serious threats that required immediate attention. Tonight, as every night for the past 3 years, the entire galaxy glowed green. Commander Davis, she said to her aide, they called us the quiet species once. Yes, ma'am. I remember reading about that in the history files. Lisa smiled. They never realized that we were quiet because we were listening, learning, preparing for the day when we would need to speak. And when we finally spoke, we spoke in steel, Commander, and the galaxy listened. Outside the windows of the Sovereign, the stars shone peacefully in the darkness. Each one represented a system where people could live without fear, work without oppression, and dream of a better future for their children. The quiet species had found their voice at last, and with that voice, they had brought peace to a galaxy that had known nothing but war. The empires that had ruled through strength and fear were gone. In their place was something new, a civilization built on wisdom, protection, and the understanding that true power came not from the ability to destroy, but from the will to protect and nurture. Humanity's wrath had indeed arrived in steel, but from that steel had come not destruction, but the foundation of lasting peace. No empire had survived the war, but something better had taken their place, a galaxy where everyone could thrive under the protection of those who understood that. The greatest victory was not conquest, but the creation of a world where conquest was no longer necessary. The age of empires was over. The age of peace had begun, and it would last as long as humanity remembered the lesson they had taught the galaxy, that true strength was not the power to destroy, but the wisdom to protect, and the courage to use that power only when all other options had failed. The stars shone on peaceful and eternal, watching over a galaxy that had finally learned to live in harmony.